What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 10 of Shaws and Kings. It's your boy Shaheen, always out here with Keith and Weapon X, aka Farnoosh. Well, it's actually Farnoosh, aka Weapon X, right? Weapon X is his stage name. And today, it's December 15th. We're halfway through holiday month. So we decided to talk, and it's also the eve of the most important holiday of the year, my birthday. So I figured we'd all kind of discuss the importance of the holiday season, the ancient roots, and how it's sort of evolved into what it is today, and how consumerism and slash capitalism kind of like played its part in what it is today. And yeah. So, holiday season, usually when it comes to the holidays, we usually think about like Christmas, right? I feel like Christmas is like the forefront of the holidays, even though it's like it shouldn't be, because Christmas is just one day, right? And but we're talking about the holiday season, which to me it
Mhm.
always starts on December 1st. And that's when you start, you go to stores and they're playing the Christmas music, you see the Christmas tree, they're playing you see the lights everywhere, right? And it's actually funny because I feel like with the holiday season, it's never really about Christmas Day. I feel like 99% of people actually, even like Christians, like actually don't give a shit about Christmas Day. It's more about like the buildup. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like everyone's just getting excited for Christmas. They're doing all their holiday shopping every single day. They're hearing more and more Christmas songs. It's more about like a spirit that goes on, like this sort of like vibe that goes on for like a month. And then once it hits like December 25th, right? I mean, I feel like basically like up until like from December 1st to December like 24th, it's basically like foreplay. And then like by the time it's December 25th, you basically like more after like noon, or by the time it's like noon and you get your gifts, you basically like come and it's like over, right? Like, and I feel like after that, like the holiday spirit just kind of like dies. But like with the holiday season, it's not just Christmas, like I said, there's so many different holidays. I mean, obviously the Jewish people have Hanukkah, and then there's Kwanzaa, which I'm not really that educated on, so I'm not going to speak much on Kwanzaa. Um, Keith, I'm pretty sure you know more about the Norse holiday traditions, if there are any, and I'll let you get to that in a minute. Me and Farnoosh next week are celebrating Yalda, which is an ancient Persian holiday celebrated every December 21st. And we still sell, all the Iranians and Persians, we all celebrate this to this very day. I would probably argue that this is probably the most ancient holiday that's being practiced up until this day, right? And during this season. And, I think this is cool, right? Because last week we were talking about seasonal depression, right? And our ancestors kind of understood that during the winter, a lot of people get depressed. And they had this spiritual belief that during the winter, right, there's always, I mean, no matter what time of year it is, there's always that war between good versus evil, right? Ahura Mazda versus the Ahriman, right? It's never ending. It goes on and on and on forever and ever. And this is and I always like took this as like a metaphor for the mind, right? In your mind, you're gonna have like days where you're feeling good about yourself, right? And that's like that's when they say you're connected to Ahura Mazda. And then there are days where like you feel like shit, you're depressed, you're angry, you're belittling yourself, and that's like when the Ahriman gets the best of you, right? And then our ancestors kind of understood that during the winter, a lot of people felt down. It got colder, crops would die, people wouldn't really leave their homes as much. It was just a dark time, diseases, right, usually happen in the winter. So they believed that this was because the Ahriman was gaining the upper hand between good versus evil, between that war with the Hura Mazda. And that's why it would get colder. That's why crops would die. That's why things would get, it would go to shit, right? So the way I interpret Yalda was, this is like the one good day we have left, right? The longest night of the year before it goes to shit, right? And then it's like winter and we have to like deal with it. So, and like that's like the beauty of it. You get together with your family, you eat your pomegranates, and then it's also a tradition that we read, and this is relatively new, where we read like poetry from Hafiz, right? Very, very old Persian poet. Not as ancient as the holiday, but he's very old guy. Probably around like maybe over 1,000 years ago, right? Something like that. So
About
about, yeah. So I think and that carries on till today. And we also got these holidays. Obviously, like there's Christmas, which I think it picked a very interesting date, December 25th, because December 25th is also before there was Christianity. I think it was, and I don't know like how to pronounce this correctly because I know it also came from Zoroastrianism, Mithraism, right? Is that how you say it? That derived from Zoroastrianism and Mazdaism, and I believe I believe December 25th is also like when their prophet was born, right? Am I right in that? Farnoosh, do you know?
what is in terms of when Christ was
Well, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is Christmas and I guess Christianity is not really original. It
Oh, not at all. No.
Yeah, like I mean, like this idea, like born to a virgin mother, died kind of like a martyr, and then resurrected a few days later. And if you look at like the religions that came before Christianity and the faith system before that, a lot of them had the same stories. And with Christianity, and even the specific days that they happened, like, oh yeah, December 25th, right, and
there's
around
no
Easter
doubt about
time.
it. There's no doubt about it that all majority of religions are based on preceding religions, I guess, for lack of a better term, ones that came before it. Because even if you look at something as you know in the chronology of things, or I'm mispronouncing that wrong, but regardless, if you look into Islam, you look into Judaism, you look into Christianity, you look into many of the world's religions, a lot of them, depending on how far into the future they are, usually refer to ones before them. And it's evident because usually, if you look into many of the holy books, you'll find that Zarathustra or Zoroaster is mentioned in all of them as a prophet. So it wouldn't be too far fetched to imagine that a lot of these things were based on Zoroastrianism. And I even aside from holidays, today somebody was mentioning, I think you reposted it on your Instagram, about Game of Thrones being
Mm,
based on Zoroastrianism. But again, this in particular for me is really interesting because to me, as far as what I know about it, a lot of it is tied into Christianity, but a lot of it is tied into traditions that predate Christianity, um, or things that had very little to do with Christianity. Um, and there's an interesting dynamic with Christmas itself. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that there's an evil Santa, but there really
Yeah.
is an evil Santa. I think what was it? I forget his
Krampus.
name. It's Krampus, but it's the original name I think is Belsnickel.
Bill Snickle.
yes.
Yeah.
Belsnickel is yeah, basically he's the version of Santa that dresses. He looks up ugly. He dresses up in black, and what he does is he actually does the same thing as Santa in terms of delivering presents. But if you're on the bad list, instead of giving you coal, he actually has something to whip you with.
Yeah, he whips you with birch branches.
Birch
And
branches.
then later on when it became Krampus, who's more like devilish looking, he would basically like steal the children and eat them. That was like the if they were like bad enough, you put them in a sack and carry them off. That was the
Wow.
Right.
I
yeah.
dude, that's news. That's news to me. I mean, it's actually funny. I watched with my family this movie the other day called it's like the Christmas Chronicles, right? It's like
Mhm.
with a it's like a family movie something, and it's funny. Like the nemesis was like the antagonist was Belsnickel, and it was just like this annoying teenage kid. But Belsnickel, yeah. So that's funny that you brought it up. Um, but you talked about Santa Claus, and I don't want to be I mean I know I come off as that guy, but whatever, that like I want to give credit all the credit to the Persians, and I'm not trying to be that guy, but And I guess like when it comes to Santa Claus, like there's a lot of debate with that. And I know like some of his appearance has his Norse roots, absolutely. And I also think like, I remember one time, but with Persians, we have someone called Amun Noruz, right? And his appearance, yeah, I remember I went to Mashhad, which is like a city in like east of Iran. Like that's where my mom's side of the family's from. And I climbed up this little mountain thing with my uncle, and there was like a statue of what I thought was Santa Claus, and I'm like, "Yo, is that like fucking a statue of Santa Claus in Iran?" And he's like, "Oh no, 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 dude, that's Amun Noruz." And I'm like, "What?" And like that's when he like, and then like that's when he told me like what Amun Noruz was, which is basically it's Persian. It's like what you think Santa Claus is, but like with Persian, it's like a Persian version of that predates Christianity and Islam. And and basically during Nowruz, he comes out and gives presents to everyone, right? Very similar concept. And his appearance, again, it's like a fat white dude with a beard, and well, not white dude, but Middle Eastern dude with a beard and
Caucasian, yeah.
wearing red, because he's got the hat, and like he during Nowruz he parades the streets, right? Like bringing good vibes. And then we're not going to really talk about Haji Firuz.
Oh god,
But
that's a discussion for another day. But I will say this: actually, when Nowruz comes around, and we're still doing this podcast, I'm going to have a lot to say about that, because that in itself
yeah.
is an interesting dynamic, and how you explain Haji Firuz to white people, or it's not white people, sorry, to black people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's a touchy thing, but I'll leave that's
Yeah.
its whole nother subject.
That's another.
Because I mean it's not the holiday for this particular month, so I'll leave it alone. That'll be for another day. But just look forward to that later on.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
in 3 months time, right? 3 months and 5 days.
yeah.
Yeah, which I'm looking forward to. Hopefully the
Keith, you're gonna
pandemic.
have
Yeah.
fun with this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I explained Haji Firuz to Keith. Have I, Keith?
Is that the I don't want to give anything away before you guys talk about it. Is it like the blackface-ish kind of one?
Kind of. Yeah, you can
Right?
say
Yeah.
that. Yeah, you can kind of say
You
that.
kind of told me a little bit, but not. I don't really,
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll leave it at that for today.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that in 3
It's
months.
not what you think, but it kind of is. So
Yeah. Well, that's like in England they have some holiday celebration where it's for chimney sweeps.
yeah.
And chimney sweeps back in the day, they would go in the chimneys, they would be covered in soot, so they're all black, right? So they still have a tradition where like guys go around with black makeup on their face and like dance and shit.
Well, that's actually what Haji Firuz was, a chimney sweep.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. So
oh shit.
same
And
thing.
and that's why
Wow.
it's hard to that's why it's so
Wow.
hard to explain it, because like it's like because if you say he's a chimney sweep, I just feel like it just gets people to roll their eyes. Like, yeah, okay, chimney sweep.
Yeah,
You know,
you
like
guys made that up for that
That's
reason.
people are idiots though too. I mean,
yeah, it's just one of those things. I try to like if I'm talking about Haji Firuz, I like if I'm setting up to have scene, like my mom one time put Haji Firuz on it and I took it out. I'm like, yo, I can't post this on Instagram. Like I can't do that.
But it's
Oh my
okay to
God.
talk about Belsnickel.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but
Oh,
anyway,
shit.
I mean, like, so where's this conversation going, guys? So, I mean, we're talking about like these ancient holidays. We're basically saying Christianity isn't original, and the holiday, like I said, like the holiday season, and like I said, it's not just Christmas, even though it may seem like Christmas is like the forefront of this whole thing. But I always think like it's the holiday season, and it's very inclusive now, right? And like I said, it includes all cultures. A lot of different cultural groups have their own holidays they celebrate, and I feel like in America, it's kind of become a shit show because you have like the right wing conservative movement who's so obsessed with like dominance, and they're like motherfucker, it's Merry Christmas, right? And like, they'll call you like a snowflake, and then like if Starbucks like gives them like a red cup that doesn't say Merry Christmas on it, they're triggered. And oh, there's a war on Christmas, we need Donald Trump, right? And like this,
We're back to Trump again.
yeah, or we need
Oh, Jesus.
Fox News is like waving, it's like red alert, like and I think this has, I think that just has to do with like the right wing's obsession with dominance. Like, no, it's Merry Christmas, and you other holidays are like inferior. Like,
Let me ask you.
Yeah,
I want to ask you this because you're out there and you have obviously you're presenting this view. Do they, before I say what I'm going to tell you, do they really make that big a deal out of it out there in the East Coast in terms of it being Merry Christmas and emphasizing on the Christmas issue?
To be honest, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's more of a news thing you hear about. Like, it's not really like something we directly see. Like, if I go to a Starbucks, I'm not going to see somebody yelling about it in Connecticut. But
because let me tell you, out here on the West Coast, and this is some trippy shit. We have people, and there have been incidents at the workplace where if you say Merry Christmas, it's offensive. You're infringing on somebody else's beliefs that don't celebrate Christmas. You can't even, in certain places,
Oh, wow.
there are people that have complained in HR about people saying Happy Holidays.
that's
it was
ridiculous.
offensive. And I shit you not, this is real. This actually happened to a friend of mine. And he was so pissed. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? I get that they have a belief, but we have to go into other people's place of work. And then, isn't that infringing on my belief on Christmas? I'm like, well, I can't argue that, but I don't know how HR and all this stuff works. But apparently in certain, in California, in certain places, you can't even say Happy Holidays. And if it's written on a cup, I guess it's offensive. I don't know.
Wow.
I think with both sides, like me personally, like if someone comes up to me and say Merry Christmas, I'll be like, hey man, you too. Or same thing with like Happy Holidays. I genuinely don't give a shit. And I just don't understand why. Again, I see it more on one side than the other. Like I never like told someone like, I remember like I used to work at like a Walgreens, and like so during the holiday season, it wasn't even Christmas, but during the holiday season, I would just be like bagging shit for people. Hey man, happy holidays, and be like, and they'll just point at me and say Merry Christmas, like as if they're making like a political point. Like, so I have seen it, man. And I'm like, okay, man, you too. Like, Merry Christmas to you too. And I just don't see why people care. And I feel like the only reason, like if it's not December 25th, I just don't see why you would care. And I think this just ties down. This just boils down to like you want your values to have dominance over others. Like what other explanation is there? Like it's you get one day of the year. I mean, one day of the month. That's yours. You got Christmas Eve. You got Christmas. You know what I mean? Like what more do you want? Like like
Christ is king, bro, all year, all day. Come on now.
Yeah.
Think about it. You get your one day. I mean, not to defend all the other. Well, I guess I am defending all the other religions for equality. Do people get the day off on Hanukkah? No. Do people get the day off on Kwanzaa? No. Do I get Yalda off? No. But you get your damn Christmas. You got to really come up to me with your finger and go, Merry Christmas. It's like, you already got your day. I mean, what else do you want?
Yo, I live in in Connecticut. I had like Glastonbury. There's this town called Glastonbury, right? And apparently there's a big Jewish population in Glastonbury. So their school systems, like they actually take off like Jewish holidays. And then
well, even in ours, the Jewish kids like we went to school with could take Hanukkah off if they wanted to. It was like optional for them when we were in school. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. But I think
I don't know about Kwanzaa though.
I think in Glastonbury, I think it was like everyone got it off, right?
Oh, wow.
So like that, I maybe it wasn't Glastonbury. I think it was, and I remember there was this controversy. Like there were like these Christian parents who were like, "Why do our kids have to take the day off just because of Jewish?" I'm like, what do you guys want? Like you guys got Christmas off. You guys got fucking like a lot of you guys get Good Friday off. Like, you know,
Mhm.
it has to do with, again, it all ties down to dominance. It's just like them trying to make a point. Like, we are,
Mhm.
like, we run your shit, and you have to like kneel to our values. That I mean, I mean, I guess we're getting off topic here because now we're getting like political.
Bend the
Uh,
knee to Christmas.
yeah, it's
But
Yeah, this is
here,
gonna it's gonna turn into a religious conversation instead of a holiday conversation.
but I
no,
mean,
But
but
but it's all connected, you know.
it is,
It's
but
all connected. Um,
yeah.
um,
but I mean, it takes away from the, when people do that, and I don't think they realize that they're doing it half the time. It takes away from the spiritual and the virtuous, for lack of a better word, values of a holiday. Because
Mhm.
along with, we can complain about how people go around and talk about their holiday like it's superior, or they want to do things like impose their beliefs to it. But what about the positive aspects of a holiday? If we're going to switch gears here, I mean, now one thing I do like is, for example, I mean, before they used to do it like it was inclusive. Now I see Jewish people, they celebrate Christmas, they put up trees,
dude, we do too.
and I mean, no,
Yeah,
exactly. But that's a beautiful thing, because it's like, now
Mhm.
it's saying, instead of being just this religiously inclusive holiday, it's actually a joyous holiday where people get together. I mean, I can't speak for all holidays, but ideally I'd like to believe that the conception of these holidays originally, with the exception of a few, which I know were like evil pagan ones, because there are good pagan ones too, we'll just differentiate. But with the exception of
We can
a
get into
few of
that another day.
those, yeah, well, I mean, we could. I mean, it's still a part of it's
Mhm.
still a part of our discussion. But for the most part, a lot of these were conceived, or at least evolved into something where people could get together as families, as kin, and have a good time and spend time with each other, and be with their loved and their close ones.
mm.
So why shouldn't it, why shouldn't we smile a little when we see like a Jewish person or a Persian person or whatever celebrate Christmas, or like a white person embrace Kwanzaa? I mean, isn't, at the end of the day, as long as it's positive and it's bringing people together in a positive light, why shouldn't they be promoted as such? I mean, why? Definitely, I'm all for throwing that inclusive shit out the way. I mean, all inclusive, yes, but exclusive, I should say, excluding people
Mhm.
based on superiority, or
Yeah,
oh, you're not from this religion, out the window.
you,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing with that, right, is, I mean, the United States was kind of founded by Protestant Christians, right? So they were kind of the first European, or first old world religion to get here and kind of set roots. So those people will probably feel like, well, we were the first ones, right? Completely ignoring the Native Americans, of course, because everyone does. And then, because of that, they have some claim to the soul of the country, right? Um,
which is ironic, isn't it? Because they ran away from their own country to kind of like escape people like that, so they can like
yeah,
practice a religion the way they want to.
yeah. Well, the funny thing is, they actually were practicing a more restrictive version of
Yeah,
the
I,
versions that were in
yeah,
Europe.
a lot of them are pieces of shit. Absolutely,
Yeah,
like actually, yeah, fuck them. But
but
uh,
it's like, it reminds me of, I mean, Shaheen, you've been to Iran, so it's, I mean, I don't know how Islam is there, but like stories I've heard from like very strict Muslim countries where, yeah, you're allowed to practice your religion if you're not a Muslim there, but it's kind of implied that like you're kind of a piece of shit for not being Muslim. Like, it's,
kind of, yeah. I mean, in Iran, like you can, like, you know, like you're allowed to be like, I mean, like laws are weird there, so like you are allowed to be Jewish. Like it's not like it's not like fucking like 1942, and like, you know, they're
mhm.
building, you know, they're trying to like get all the Jewish people registered and then like throw them in. It's not like that. Like, you know, like Jewish people, they go, you know, they go to like schools with Muslim kids, and they you know, they just can't openly preach it, right? They can like practice what they
Mhm.
want behind closed doors, and like they can, They just can't. And there are synagogues like located in Iran too. You know, I think with Iran, honestly, like with their government, I don't know if they're like anti-Jewish. Well, actually, no, they are pretty anti-Jewish. But I think they're more like anti like Israel, right? But I also
Mhm.
think no, they are, I would definitely say they are pretty like anti-Jewish because I know that if there's a law that for okay, like a Jewish person could convert to a Muslim, right?
Yep.
But if a Muslim converts to a Jew, that's a death sentence, right? So that's I would say that's pretty anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
But I actually think it applies to like Christians as well. Like if a Muslim converts to a Christian, it's a death sentence. Uh, so yeah, it does imply that like if you're not Muslim, you are kind of a piece of shit. Uh,
Yeah, and
I
I mean, I
wouldn't.
don't know how Iran compares to other like Muslim countries as far as like how strict they are with that either. But you hear horror stories from Saudi Arabia and shit like that too, and it's
yeah,
I'm not saying that the Christians here are trying to do something similar, but it's kind of I think it comes from the same place where it's like
yeah.
um we're preeminent and we know it, therefore you know
I think there's a bigger group of people in this country, bigger than we like to think, that want a Christian version of Iran or Saudi Arabia in the US. Like that's
mhm.
where it comes from, right? Like so um the same people who want to like for some reason like in our schools like we do the pledge of allegiance and then there's like that whole debate if you should say uh on
One nation
God,
under God.
under God,
Yeah.
yeah. And you know I personally think that shouldn't be in school. uh
Right. That's
I
actually a pretty recent addition, though, too. Like the under
under
God
God,
part was added in the 50s to as
right.
like an anti-communist thing because the communists are godless. That was like the whole like they literally like it's illegal basically to have religion in communist countries. So that was part of the like us differentiating ourselves from them. Before that, the Pledge of Allegiance never had it, and for some reason, it just I mean it stuck because our country still has a lot of Christians in it, even if it's kind of declining. I would say in some ways.
It is declining, but I think like especially, and I don't want to like I don't mean to like bring out Trump again, but you know, uh, there's this. I mean, there was this movement even before Trump, and Trump just kind of exploited and capitalized off it, where they believe that for some reason like they're under attack, like Christianity's under attack in America. There's a war on. We talked about this, the war on
Yeah.
Christmas. They believe that you know that if you're a Christian they're somehow persecuted in this country. Like it's an absolute joke. But I lost my train of thought because it's just so much nonsense. But
Yeah.
I guess, I guess like what it comes from is that if they feel like they're not dominating, if it feels like they're not being the oppressor, uh then they're being oppressed. So if you know what I mean, like that, like that's how like it's the same thing with like white people who shout all lives matter. And they think that if I say like Black Lives Matter, we're like it's like we're hate white people now, right? Like so,
Mm.
if we call if we imply that Black people are equal to white people, then white people think they're oppressed because we say that. Like that's like the massive irony, you know?
It's the hunter versus the hunted
Well, it's
mentality.
also a different perception. Like the way you're perceiving that you're like yourself or someone else saying Black Lives Matter is not the same way they're perceiving it,
Correct.
right? Like
Yeah.
you're perceiving it as Black Lives Matter, like period. That's true statement. Anyone who disagrees with that's a piece of shit. I think we can all agree with that. Whereas they probably hear, at least from what I've heard, you know, when you say Black Lives Matter, it's like you're it's like only Black Lives Matter versus like Black Lives Matter too. Like
Yeah.
um so like it's a different they're viewing it from a different place too. So
But I
it's
feel like after 5 or 6 years, you should kind of know now. You
yeah,
know,
but they probably just don't believe you. That's the problem. Like those people aren't never gonna believe like yours, you know what I mean?
it's and that just ties back like back into our social media episode where we talk about
Mm.
alternate realities and how the white man's oppressed because of affirmative action and like this bullshit like just bullshit belief systems like that.
Yeah.
So back to our holidays again. This is all connected. This is crazy. um with- I guess I mean, Keith, I want to hear about the Norse, some of the Norse traditions during the holiday season, if there are any, because
Mm.
I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I probably invested like maybe 60, 70 hours into the game. Finally
Oh
beat
yeah.
it. Yeah, I finally beat it. And
Mm.
but and it's funny, like you see little dudes walking around with like Santa Claus hats, but
Yeah.
They're not Santa Claus hats,
Yeah.
but that back then that was like a hat they wore. So
Right.
yeah, why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So as far as the pagan Europe, well, I should say the pagan European um, solstice holidays, right? In the similar way that Yalda is, it's like a harvest kind of thing. The Romans had Saturnalia, which was
Right.
basically it was to the god Saturn for a good harvest, and they
I
would
forgot
drink
about
and
Saturnalia.
probably
Yeah.
drink and orgies and all the fun stuff. Um, with the Norse, well, there's a few issues with it, like in terms of what we have available as information, like especially because the Norse were pagans for so long compared to other parts of Europe. And I think the only other group that was pagan longer were the Slavs, but we only really have stuff dating from about the year 1000 translated. Um, and I only know that because I did my history thesis on the Vikings and I had to use like the original translations. But the like Yule time holidays, it's mostly around Odin, which I mean, a lot of the holidays and the Norse stuff is largely centered around Odin because he's the chief god.
Yeah.
But it was because it's farther north, it wasn't really a celebration of the harvest as much. It was usually, at least from what I've read up on it, I mean, I don't celebrate it in the same way like people did back then, but it was more like the first hunt after the harvest, like because all the plants are dead, so why not hunt the animals? Um,
Yeah.
so and you'd have like you burn a Yule log, which is kind of like an offering. I'm sure they probably did sacrifices to wasn't like the blood eagle type of like gory type of sacrifices that they did sometimes for, but they would have the Yule goats as like a decoration. It was like a it's basically supposed to be a representation of the goats that pull Thor's chariot in battle. I actually have one.
Dope.
Because it's still like even if people don't celebrate the pagan parts the same way anymore, there's still aspects of it that are still celebrated today.
Mm.
And I mean, I don't know if it's done the same way because nobody really knows probably, but um, yeah, and like the tree, cutting down the tree and putting it in the house, that comes from Germanic and Scandinavian custom originally. The original like imagery of Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus, right? Before it was before Coca Cola started using the image, he was dressed and built more like he was basically based on Odin,
Yeah.
um, like a taller bearded figure with the hood on, with the hood and giving her giving out gifts and everything, um, and yeah, I think the shift in the popular image of Santa changed when Coca Cola got involved and basically made him their mascot during the holidays.
Mhm.
Um, and then you started seeing the more what was the name of the one in Iran again?
Amunard.
Amunorus.
Amonorus.
Yeah.
I would guess that's where Coca Cola got their image because you showed me the pictures of it, right? And it was like
Yeah.
it's like yeah, that's definitely that version of Santa.
Yeah.
um, but there's a lot with Christmas that comes from more of the Germanic like pagan stuff, as opposed to like it doesn't come from Judaism. Like even though Christianity comes from Jesus Christ, who was a Jew, the celebration of Christmas, almost none of it is actually originally about anything to do with that. It's
Do you,
basically the same way that other places have done this. Like you go into a place and you want to convert them to your religion, so you take one of their holidays, just call it something else, and change some little things. Like, oh, this isn't actually your God isn't real. This doesn't represent his God. This represents our God. And actually, this is like his glorious light, and he was born on this day. Oh no, oh you're what happened on that day? Oh no, I'm sorry, that's Jesus Christ's day. Nope, you're wrong. And then that just becomes the whole narrative with it. Um, and even with Easter, right? There's also I think it was a Greek goddess um, of the harvest, Ostara, which is where the name Easter came from originally.
mm,
And like Jesus in the actual historical record was not born like in December. And that's like a known thing.
right? It was more
But it's
towards
just kind
spring,
of
right?
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
supposed to be like a symbological kind of thing, and it helps get like some people to convert to Christianity probably at some point. And that's most of the holidays, right? Even like All Hallows Eve, Halloween. Originally, it was a Celtic harvest festival thing called Samhain,
Mm.
where like the spirits of the dead were believed to rise, and you could like walk among the living. And that's why to this day it's celebrated by wearing masks to like hide yourself from evil spirits. That's like that was the origin of it. Um, and
No, dude,
then
that's funny. I mean, there was a mission in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't know if you got there yet, where like they're like celebrating that, and like you're like knocking on people's door wearing like a scarecrow's mask, and like just like, and you're basically like, and it's just basically like you're just like sharing riddles and shit with like the people who live there. And then
mhm.
they just like give you like some sort of treat or like some sort of like item, like a collective item or some shit, you know?
They still
Yeah.
do something like that in Wales where I don't remember what the name of the holiday is. Somebody would have to let me know in the comments, or I can look it up after this. But in Wales, they'll bring a horse's. Somebody will be wearing a horse's skull, and they'll come to your house, and you have to basically rap battle them, basically like the flighting.
Yeah.
And if you lose, you have to give them something like food or a beer or something like that. I don't remember the exact.
Oh yeah,
It's
that's
like,
actually what that's what happened in Valhalla. Like, yeah, it's
oh,
like you
okay,
basically like do the flighting and or the rap battles, and they're like, "Oh, very good," and they'll give you something. It's funny.
it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But
Um,
that's still done that way in Wales, as far as I know. But like
okay.
the part with like the masks and hiding from evil spirits and stuff, that's originally from Sam Hain. Um, and then let's
So I mean,
see what
it
it's.
all just comes down to like
Yeah.
everything we celebrate. Like I guess like that's like the point we're trying to make. Um, throughout this episode is that a lot of the things that we celebrate to this day predate Christianity. These are traditions that are ancient, and for some people, again, like I think it's really cool to go back and look at the roots and the reasoning behind this. I think today like Christianity is just, even like to Christians, I think it's just thought of as just Jesus's birthday. Like Christmas in America, or Christmas in general is just in the Christian mind, like is when we are celebrating it's when we're celebrating Jesus's birthday. And like that's it. We're just celebrating some dude's birthday. Like
Yeah.
that existed 2000 years ago. Good dude. Good dude. But I feel like there's just so many things like we don't really, I feel like, for example, like I would say Easter even is more like there's deeper meaning behind the holiday, like Good Friday and Easter, right?
Hmm.
But Christmas is just some dude's birthday. And like I don't mean to
Yeah.
sound disrespectful, but I'm sure like like going like Yalda, like oh man, see now it just sounds like I'm like ripping on Christianity. But it's
I
just like
mean, the thing is like not that we can't rip on Christianity if you want. I mean, if you want to go for it, but like the whole lead up to Christmas, all even the style of the decorations, like all the wreaths and it's like all things from the forest. Almost all those things are from Germanic paganism. Like everything that's building up to that holiday of the birth of the savior of Christianity is literally pagan. Like,
So you mean like because you know like how the Christmas lights, it's like it's set up like in vines, right? Like green vines
yeah,
that circle. So that's what it
yeah,
comes from.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Like
and
that's
the tree and
fascinating.
everything, and like, yeah,
Like I feel like people should know about that and like talk and like you know like on like feel that connection they have with the tree that they put up, right? If this is something that you believe in, like if you're a Christian and these things have value to you, like why do you like people don't question it? Like why are we going out spending money to cut down a plant, bringing it to our house, creating a mess, putting shit on it, and then like 1 month later taking it out and like making even a bigger mess and just throwing it in the trash, right? Like, and I feel like I feel I mean I don't know why you know why but uh I feel like most people don't know why we do these things, and I don't know. I feel like just
they're following the commands of Odin, man. That's all I know. Whether they
I,
know it or not.
I feel like most people we just follow these traditions and like in a very like sheepish way, I guess. Where we just do it. We just put the trees up because that's just what we do in Christmas. We put the lights up. That's just because what we do. We
Mm.
fucking it's Jesus's birthday. I don't know, man. It's dude, I love the holiday season. Don't get me wrong. I like the corniness. I like the lights. I like the music. I like Mariah Carey's fucking,
Oh God.
all you want for all I want for. I like
All
that.
I want for
I like that
Christmas.
song. I should probably sample it and do a Christmas rap over it.
You
All
should.
right, I should do that. But look, like all jokes aside, like uh, I just feel like you know I don't know. I love it. I love it. But at the same time, like I feel like we love it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff is lost on us. It feels like even though now, because of the way that the media presents Christmas to us, we've kind of lost sight of where the origins of these holidays come from. And the origins of these holidays are actually pretty fascinating and pretty cool too. There's nothing wrong with the the origins of, say, like a Hanukkah or a Kwanzaa or Christmas or a Yalda or whatever holiday in general. I just feel like a lot of these holidays, um, though, are taken for face value of what is presented to us today instead of going back and discovering where it is that they really came from. Um, because again, we didn't have social media back then, we didn't have TV, but a lot of what we've discussed earlier in this podcast alludes to the fact that somewhere along the line, someone decided to modify the origins of the holidays to suit whatever agenda or propaganda or whatever I guess vision they
Mhm.
wanted to present at the time, and make it accommodate their own religious views or probably personal views, whatever existed at the time. Because again, like Keith was alluding to earlier with Christmas, a lot of Christmas actually doesn't have its roots in Christianity. There are traditions that have nothing to do with Christ that we still to this day celebrate as a part of Christmas. So
Mhm.
um, I feel like that's the important part. That's where getting in touch with the spiritual aspect of a lot of these holidays come from, is figuring out where it is that they really originated from and um, how it all comes together um, today, what we still practice, and um, what aspects of the holiday, for one reason or another, we managed to toss away because it doesn't meet our religious or consumer needs.
Yeah. Well, that's like last year. I think it's on my Instagram somewhere, but I basically took a picture of me like kneeling and doing. I did like meth work and breath work, meditation, and like prayer in front of the tree. Um,
Yeah.
As like, because I mean, I haven't been Christian since I was like 5, so it's like for me, it had nothing to do with like Jesus Christ. But and we can, that's a totally different subject for a video. I don't want to get on a side tangent of why I'm not a Christian, but
Yeah.
it's I don't know, man. It was pretty calm. You just the Christmas music in the background, breathing in the smell of the tree,
I got you.
just meditating and just like
You feel like
relaxed.
you feel like you're Ivor in the year 1870,
A
877. No, but
little bit, a little
but
bit.
Keith, let me ask you this, because we were talking about trees earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, does the Christmas tree have anything to do like with the idea of the tree of life that's in Norse mythology?
So I would actually have to look that up because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Um, Yggdrasil is usually like cutting it down symbologically would not be wise in if you were a Norse pagan. I'll put it that way, because that's kind of part of the like the end of the world cycle. Like,
Okay.
so it
Well,
wouldn't.
I guess because we're talking about like what do these certain things mean? Like
Mm,
Christmas, you're talking about like the Christmas tree is like it has like Germanic roots, right?
yeah.
Well, what did it symbolize? Do you know?
Not well. I can look these things up real quick.
All right, but while we look that up, um,
Or you could tell us all what the pomegranate represents for Yalda.
honestly, bro,
Oh,
I don't fucking know. Like, I gotta look that shit. Honestly, no. So I think my mom told me why we do that, and honestly I forgot. Uh, do you know, Farnoosh, why we do the pomegranates?
Uh, I did, but I just blanked out.
Guys, so by the way, when we call people sheep, like we're not trying to like
we're,
rip
we're
on
we're
people.
just guilty of it as ourselves.
Yeah, like yeah, even though we are shaws and kings, like there are things like we're pretty ignorant on ourselves, and this is why we have these conversations with ourselves because we're trying to figure this shit out with you guys, right? Um, but yeah, but as these two guys are doing their Google searches, um, I think a lot of the holiday spirit now has just come down to like consumerism and just basically buying shit for people you barely care about. With I mean, obviously you buy for your family and friends, people you care about, but it's all about just like again, sometimes I just feel like it's about consumerism and we go overboard with it. And also, the point of the holidays is to kind of relax a little and enjoy the time with the people you love, right?
Pretty
But
much.
but people work overtime during the holidays because they one, stores are busier, right? And two,
Because we all feel the need to go and shop for everybody else.
that, and like we want, and then like people also want to make more money because so they can buy more. And then like and then you also have like the end of the year reports, like if you have like a white collar 9 to 5 job, yeah, you guys have you got sometimes there's like the end of the year shit you got to do that's just it's work.
Mhm.
So
hmm
I feel like people during the holidays are just stressed the fuck out, and
Yeah,
consumerism just has a big part to do with that.
definitely.
yeah. So
By
with
the
the
way, oh yeah, you go
to get
first.
back to the Yule tree, so there's different, there's all different things with different pagan uh, belief systems, but basically for like solstice rites in Scandinavia, it was brought in as like first of all, like because it's an evergreen tree, it kind of represented eternal life because it's an undying tree even in winter.
Yeah.
Um, and also it's the source of life because plants give us oxygen. Obviously, they didn't like know that back then, but it was just kind of like it was supposed to be a source of light, like life basically during the cold months, in a way. And like decorating it was just kind of like doesn't really say why they decorated it.
Okay.
It was part of the like different rituals and rites, but it doesn't really like I can't find anything that's like specific to any god or goddess or anything like that in particular.
I found the pomegranates.
Yeah.
That'll help. Well, for y'all, the says that fruits and nuts are eaten, and pomegranates and watermelons are particularly significant because they have the red hue in them, like a light red hue inside the fruit. It represents like the glow of life.
Ooh.
So I
Mm.
guess that also goes back similar to the Yuletide tree, where it's a symbol of life in a dark winter month or dark winter months, so to
Mhm.
speak.
And it's also how Hades seduced Persephone. So there you
Yes,
go.
that's true. That
That's
is very
interesting.
true.
That is some interesting shit, guys.
Oh.
Um, yeah. So, all right. I think this is a good place to kind of wrap things up. Um,
Yeah, if you want someone to blame for the consumerism, blame Coca-Cola. They started it. That's all I'm
fuck
gonna say.
Coca-Cola, right? No, we're kidding. No, Coca-Cola, we're kidding. Please sponsor us.
No, we
no,
need RC, Royal Crown Cola for Charles and Kings. That's what we need.
that would be, oh, yeah. So,
I'm just putting it out there, putting it out in the universe.
and then we also forgot, like, okay, yeah, actually, yeah, I think we're gonna end it here. So, yeah, it's a real cool discussion. I feel like most people don't really have these conversations. They just kind of just go with the flow. At least, even though we might not have all the answers, at least we're trying to figure them out and just discuss it. And Sheba Yalda is in 6 days. And then after that, according to Persian traditions, everything else goes to shit after until Nowruz, right? So yeah.
What a positive outlook.
Hey.
Nah, but then we rise with the sun come Nowruz. So
Yeah.
all right,
Okay.
guys. That's what I have to say. If Keith and Farnoosh want to put their 2 cents in before we wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. Got Yule and sacrifice a ram to Odin.
Sure.
One of these days this month. Just do it.
Wait,
It'll feel good
wait.
right
You
in your
said
soul.
you said a lamb?
Or a ram. I said a ram, but
Oh,
lamb
okay.
works too.
Oh, because the Muslims sacrifice lamb.
Yeah,
Like,
well, we can get into the origins of Allah in
Oh,
another
yeah.
episode, but
Yeah.
oh, that's gonna piss people off. We're not gonna talk about that. We shouldn't. But Farnoosh, what was that? What were you going with?
sheep's lives matter. Bah. But and so do Rams. LA Rams, by the way, football team.
Hey.
Throw that in there. But
Yeah.
no, where am I getting at? Oh, final thoughts. No matter what holiday you celebrate it well, celebrate it with your family and your friends, and make sure that you celebrate it in a fashion that promotes positivity and togetherness with your family and kinfolk. Other than that, my other final thought is tomorrow is Shaheen's birthday.
Fuck.
So
Mhm.
everybody that is listening to this podcast, go ahead.
I'll send mead.
Yeah. Shout out Shaheen in your comments. Make sure you go to his
Hey.
personal page, or you can do it on the Shaws and Kings. He's just welcome to, but I think it more personal if you hit him up if you got the personal stuff. And wish my man a happy birthday.
Hey. All right, man. Thank you so much. I feel like I don't know. I still have 1 hour and 6 minutes left of being 26, so I'm gonna really savor these moments. Savor the moment, And
Mhm.
all right, yeah. Thank you, guys. And all right, guys. Well, until next time, we'll see you then.
Peace.
Bruce.